I'm Vince Lowery. I'm the Director of Student Success and Engagement. I'm also the Director of the Gateways to Phoenix Success Program. Transparency is a concept that was developed by a group led by Marianne Winklemas at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. It is a framework for approaching not only assignments, but your courses and teaching more broadly speaking. So transparency as a model guides us in thinking about how our students are going to respond to the assignments that we give them. And so if you can imagine the traditional college experience in which you're given an essay and told to write, and it's a single question. Right? And then it's up to the individual student to figure out what the question means and how to respond to it, what the professor's expectations are. Think back to your own undergraduate days. Think of a particular assignment, perhaps in your first year, large pit class if you went to a university large or college large enough. Now ask yourself, did you know why you had to do it? Did you know what steps you needed to complete? And then, did you know what it was going to take to be successful on that assignment? Now, thinking about those questions, ask yourself, how did you know that? What about the assignment told you that? The reality is that in that model, success had as much to do with the context in which you were going to college as it did what the professor had done to prepare you for that assignment. The transparency framework re-engages how we think about the assignments that we build, recognizing that students are coming to our classrooms with different contexts, with different backgrounds, with different perspectives. We have to be transparent and clear to students about why we're asking them to do the work, what steps they need to take to complete it, and the way in which their work will be evaluated so that they can self-evaluate their work prior to submission to maximize their potential for success. This is the transparency model. This is the transparency framework. Purpose. Why am I doing this? Task. What are the steps I need to complete in order to finish this assignment? And criteria, that is, how will my work be evaluated? Following this framework does not require a student to have any other background other than the knowledge, skills, and disposition that you have provided in your course. And we need to engage our students where they are. We need to understand what they bring to the table. We need to understand how we create an environment that maximizes their potential for success. I think it's important to understand that when students approach their education here at UWGB, when they approach your class, they are doing so from a particular context. That context is going to be informed by the educational environment that they come out of. But it's not just the particular educational environment. Consider, for example, the experiences of first-generation college students who are not only shaped by that context, but in contrast to their continuing generation peers, don't necessarily have the allies that they can turn to for assistance. They may not have people that they can ask for some help with explanations about an assignment. Not only that, they may not feel comfortable approaching you if they're uncertain about an assignment. That student may struggle with that assignment not as a consequence of their lack of understanding of the material, not as a consequence of their lack of skills or ability to be successful. Rather, context that is completely beyond their control is going to inform their ability to be successful. We should strive for all of our assignments to be accessible to all students, to assure that all are going to be successful. When I approached the transparency model through the Equity Fellows program a few years ago, and when I was presented with it, I thought at first, well, I'm doing this. And I realized, wait a second. am I doing this? Or am I doing this as best as I possibly could? And just because I say something in the classroom, does that mean that it necessarily registers? And so the first step was really reevaluating how I communicated assignments to students, how I structured them, and realizing the places in which I left it up to students to infer what my expectations were, or where I banked on students knowing what I meant when I explained an assignment in the classroom, not accounting for the fact that students may have misinterpreted, may not have been present, may have simply not understood what I was communicating. And so the first step was that reevaluation. And then from there, it was a snowball rolling downhill, picking up to an avalanche. I had to rethink how I built assignments and how I established relationships between the assignments so that students understood the connections from one to the other. But you don't have to go all in, right? All you need to do is take one assignment, pick one assignment out in a class, and re-engage it, evaluate it. Think about what you're doing in the classroom and pick out one assignment to reconceive in this framework. Purpose, task, criteria. I guarantee you'll be bought in when you see the impact. I immediately saw student performance change. They understood what they were being asked. And this framework, once you start to implement it, if you think you already do this, it's not that hard to then put it in writing and make sure that students can see it on the page and they can follow along on their own when you're not there. So think about that essay question that you got when you were a freshman. You might be thinking to yourself, one question creates space for creativity. A single sentence gives students the freedom to go wherever they want. Does it though? Does it actually give them freedom, or does it debilitate them by creating a sense or by not communicating to them your expectations? Giving them a lack of direction can immobilize them because they simply don't know where to go. You can still build creativity into the assignment. You can still encourage and foster unique approaches to the assignment. You can build that into your tasks. You can build that into your criteria. But to suggest that a single sentence or a paragraph describing the assignment will create creativity that the transparency model doesn't allow for, I think it actually does quite the opposite. You will immobilize students because they simply won't know what direction to take. They may not even recognize how much freedom you want them to have. You might be thinking to yourself after all of this, this is some kind of Herculean task. Right? We all feel the pressures of workload, and we've built a routine. We're teaching classes that we feel like we're comfortable with the structure, that students can be successful. But I would encourage you, take one of your classes that is populated heavily by first and second year students and pick out an assignment. Maybe you've got an assignment that you feel like should be easier and you've struggled with thinking about how to reframe it to increase student success rates, and evaluate it based upon the transparency model. Maybe it's something that you're communicating in the classroom, but you just can't figure out why it's not turning up on assignments. Put pen to paper, put finger to keyboard, and put it on the page, communicating to them why you want them to do it, the steps that you want them to complete in order to do it, and then how you're going to evaluate what they've done. With that, you can feel like, or at least begin to feel like, you've taken the steps to assure that the maximum number of students can be successful on that assignment. They're also going to look at you as somebody that they can approach because you're articulating in that assignment a care for how they're going to do. And that, above all else, is going to have an impact upon their ability to be successful.